What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video. In this one, I'm going to teach you everything you need to know about the Lix Jump. Let's go. So before we get into the tutorial, let's just lay out some disclaimers. This mechanic is still really hard. I do not recommend learning it if you're anywhere below Grand Champ. I think there's way more things that are so much more valuable to spend your time learning. But if you're below Grand Champ and you're curious, you'll still be able to learn something here. And if you're above Grand Champ, I think that this mechanic will actually add value to your games. So what is a Lix Jump? It's essentially another way to get a flip reset, except instead of getting it on the ball, you're getting the flip immediately as you're jumping off the wall. It's a lot harder to get than a regular reset, but it's a lot more concealed and hard for opponents to read, and hopefully with the rest of this tutorial, the tips I give you will help you get the timing down so that you can practice this and get it with some consistency. So this is what it looks like. Now you can see I'm in the air. I'm well after that 1.5 second timer, but now I can use my flip. So if you want to know why this works, it's basically doing the same thing as catching the ball in a traditional reset. You're tricking the game into thinking that you've landed when instead it puts you in the air, and that lets you keep your flip forever. So there's 3 parts to this mechanic. One is the initial setup and angle. The second part is the neutral jump. And the third part is the side flip. And I'm gonna break it down into those 3 sections specifically so that you can know exactly what you're doing right or wrong when you're going to practice this. So part 1 of this is the setup, and it's all centered around doing a curve dash. What a curve dash is basically just timing a jump when you're coming down the wall so that your front wheels pop up and your back wheels stay on the ground. Kinda did it there, let's try one more time. And you can see there that by timing a jump, as I'm coming down the wall, right when my car is getting on that curve, that's helping my front wheels pop up and my back wheels stay grounded. So with a Lix Jump, the same concept is applied, except instead of doing it when going down the wall, you're doing it while going up the wall. So the spot you want to aim for is when the middle of your car is right about here. This is the magic spot, where timing your first jump in there is going to pop the front tires up, but leave the back wheels on the wall. And that's the most important part of the setup. So if you're breaking it down into steps, the first thing you want to be able to do is consistently be able to drive up the wall and time that jump just so your front tires come up and your back wheels stay grounded. I will go around in circles and just do this over and over again. That's how I learned, and this is how you practice that timing. So you probably noticed that as I'm practicing doing this step of the process, I'm always going at a little bit of an angle, and it's possible to do a Lix Jump when going straight up and down the wall, but when you're gonna get to the step of doing it with the ball, it's easier to be going at an angle anywhere between like 10 and 45 degrees, so it looks kind of like this is probably a pretty narrow angle. This is probably a pretty wide angle, but either way, as you drive up, you should be able to consistently get those wheels to pop off and fall back down on the wall. So this is a pretty easy thing to practice because all you're doing is pressing your jump button once. You don't have to do any other inputs. And here's a few tips on how you can really nail down the timing. If you're jumping too early, the wall's just gonna eat your jump and your tires aren't gonna come off at all. Again, this is what it looks like if you go too early. Nothing happens with your tires, you just continue on the wall. On the flip side, if you're jumping too late, your tires are just all gonna come off the wall and you're gonna jump off as normal. So if you're seeing either of these mistakes, just know that if the wall eats your jump, you're going too early, and if you fly off the wall, you're going too late. The final piece of everything is doing a side flip. So pretty simple, you just hold to the side and flip, just like you normally would in game. And you're always gonna wanna flip towards the middle of the field. So that means if you're going off the left wall, flip right, and if you're going off the right wall, you flip left. So it'll look like this. And right there, what I did was I flipped to the right just as my wheels were coming back down on the wall, and I know I got it here, so I can use my flip, again, whenever I want to. Now don't get me wrong, this part of the mechanic is by far the hardest. The window where you have to time your flip is really, really small, which is why I don't recommend anyone lower than Grand Champ learning this, but I do have a few tips on how you can work on the timing. Once again, there's ways to know whether you're doing something too early or too late. If you're doing the side flip too early, and again, this is assuming that you've mastered the first part of the jump, you will side flip away from the wall like that. That is a telltale sign that you're executing the second flip way too early. Try to side flip too late, and what you're gonna get is basically a single jump off the wall. You can see right there, it looks kind of like I got the mechanic, but I just got that single jump, can't flip. So how did I know when I actually did the mechanic right? This is my favorite part of all of this. There's an audio cue that will let you know whether or not you've done it successfully. The difference will be between the sound of doing a single jump, or if you've done it correctly, you'll hear the sound of a flip instead. Just like that. So let's try and do two examples in rapid succession, one done wrong and one done right. So if you do it wrong, and this is when you flip a little late on that second jump, you'll hear just the single jump, like that. But then if you go ahead and do it right, I hope I can do it first try here. Did you hear that? I know for a fact that I've done the mechanic correctly now, because as I came off the wall, I heard the sound of a flip. And you can see, there it is, I got the mechanic. So with all that in mind, you should have all the pieces you need to start practicing this mechanic and get good feedback on where you're messing up the timing. The mechanic essentially boils down to driving straight, doing a neutral jump, and doing a side flip. It's the timing that's hard, and keeping all that in mind will really help you narrow it down. A couple last things to keep in mind. Don't do this while going full speed. It becomes so much harder to time that initial jump if you're going at supersonic, so it's best used when you're going slightly slower than max speed, right? And don't forget the angle either, right? It's easier to get that initial jump if you're a little bit turned to the side than it is to get it while you're going straight up and down. And again, heard the audio cue, so there we have it. Thank you guys again for watching. Hope you enjoyed and found it helpful. If you made it to this point, please remember to like, comment, subscribe. I'm a small channel, I do free coaching, and it goes a long way. So thanks, and I'll see you in the next one.